You're listening to Boobies and Newbies, brought to you by the Frolic Podcast Network. Welcome to Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and I hope y'all are ready for a new hockey romance series because I guarantee after you read today's book, you will 100% want to binge the rest of the series. As always, you can catch up on past episodes of Boobies and Newbies on your favorite podcatcher or on boobiesandnewbies.com. If you're looking for some wonderfully generous and free ways to support the podcast, you can always leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and spread the word to your friends. It might seem like a small thing, but word of mouth makes a huge difference for indie podcasters like myself. And of course, I am always very, very appreciative. If you do find yourself with a few extra bucks to share and you want to show the podcast a little extra love, please consider supporting Boobies and Newbies on Patreon. You'll have instant access to bonus clips, stickers, and swag, and so much more. And of course, I will leave links to all of the above in today's show notes. But enough about me. Today's guest is a fellow podcasting pal and returning Boobies and Newbies guest. By day, she's a college professor who teaches and researches relationships. By night, she hosts Best Forevers, a podcast for kindred spirits, and Fatalities, a podcast that blends two of my favorite things, true crime and tea. Please join me in welcoming Alysa Lucas.
Hi, I'm still a newbie.
You're a newbie, but not as newbie as you once were.
Well, I have to say, I think pretty much 2/3 of the romance books I've read have been for your podcast. And the other ones are the hockey, the off-campus series.
Oh, El Kennedy's series.
Yes, and I'm like, are there romance books only about hockey?
It is definitely a large market, and I actually talked about this recently with someone. I think this was during one of our IG lives. I could be wrong, but my question was, why hockey over all the other sports in romance? Because I have to say, I see a lot of hockey romance, like a lot. Mm-hmm. I feel like next up, I see maybe a mix of baseball and football, but where's basketball? Why didn't basketball make the cut?
Well, I also wonder because in England or Europe generally, soccer, i.e. football, is so big. And in England specifically, I know the wives and girlfriends, the wags. They take over all of the news and that sort of thing. So I'm surprised there aren't some soccer ones. Because
there's a few, but honestly, off the top of my head, I can only think of a couple, and one of them is by a British author. So so I'm not sure, but it's I know that there's rugby.
That makes sense.
Not a ton, and again, they're usually either college-based or they're foreign. They're out of the United States. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, hockey, it seems to be the sport in romance.
Now, the first time I was on here was for an Olivia Dade book, and
40 Love.
40 Love. She had a tennis instructor.
Tennis.
So all of my romance novels have included sports, which is actually a good choice because I like sports. I've had crushes on athletes, and when I was in community college, I had all the hockey team from the minor league hockey team in the area was in my anatomy class, and so we had lab groups or whatever. And I don't like dissecting things. It makes no thank you. But none of the dudes could do it. They were all freaked out. I'm gonna pass out. I'm gonna vomit. And I was like, You're really ruining this for me.
Dude, you like run into walls and lose teeth on like a weekly basis. You're going to have trouble like opening up a frog? What's going on?
I know, it's they were nice guys. They're cute. I went to their games. What do they call it? A puck girl or a
puck bunnies.
Puck bunny.
Puck bunnies. And
I wouldn't give myself that label, but maybe I would have been in training to
puck rabbit.
Puck. What's that? Puck sloth? Like
puck sloths.
Like slow moving,
like I'm on my way, but it's gonna take me a while to get there.
My whole life until I read Bishop.
Oh my God, that's so fun. And you know what? I was an athlete for most of my childhood and young adult years. That's a sport. I don't care what anybody says. It is a sport.
Not when I did it. If you're doing stunts, tricks, and you prepare like an athlete, it's a sport.
Okay.
We were more like slash dance team. Okay.
Slash. There was a slash in it. Cheerleader slash dance team. No, for me, I love going to sporting events still today, but hockey is one of the few sports that I've never actually seen live. I don't know if I've ever actually even sat down and watched a hockey game on TV. So,
well, being from Michigan, Red Wings were hot for a long time when I was in college, and Steve Yzerman is now, I think he owns the Detroit Red Wings, and he is attractive. I'm gonna need a Stevie Y romance book from when he was our captain, number 19 captain. Like his whole career was at Detroit. So like for like I went to games at Michigan State. We don't have hockey at Central, so but yeah, it's interesting because it's like soccer where it can take a very long time for people to score.
Yeah, that's fair. I understand. But I feel like there's a lot more. The only thing I can think of as far as hockey being like more attractive in romance is that because it's such a physical sport, like there's so much pushing and shoving and, violence in general, but also like a lot of speed and agility. Like I can see where that would be an attractive sport in romance. Like I don't know. I guess. And it's very fast. Like it's very fast in that they're always moving. And like I love a good baseball game, but like that shit's like 4 hours long and like 8 beers.
I can only watch baseball if I am there presently, like in person. I have to be there because God bless, our baseball team is so fun. They're hilarious. They wear like Yoda hats, Santa hats. We had some like water flood and it iced over and they skated around it. Like they're just hilarious.
It's because they know like how boring it gets. They're like, we gotta spice things up.
Spice it up. But I could see that. Like, but there's this level of masculinity that comes with hockey that might also have like a sensitive side. They're not gonna be like 300-pound like
that's true
player. They're not gonna be super slim, even though like LeBron James isn't slim, but like basketball players are like tall and slim. Like hockey, there might be varying sizes, but like generally there's a masculine, and I don't necessarily want to say feminine, but maybe a softer side.
Vulnerable. That's how I like my men, so I'm fine by me. But that's so funny though that you are still relatively new to the world of romance, but you've made a dent in the world of sports romance. So I found that to be true with a lot of guests that I've had on the podcast, is that somehow they find their way into a very specific section of romance, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It works for me because I like sports. I've had crushes on professional and like athletes that I went to school with and stuff like that. So it like fits my vibe in general. And I have to say, every romance book I've read that's either been recommended by you or my former student Claire, who's on Best Forever's a lot, they're all good. Like I feel like Perfect. I'm only going to read romance books that you and Claire recommend. it'll just keep going. Like, it's just like right now it's 3 for 3. No, I think I didn't finish the L. Kennedy series. I think I'm on the 4th book. So 3, 4. I'm 5 for 5. So
that's pretty great. That is
100%.
pretty great. Well, and as much as I appreciate you, taking on my recommendations, let me assure you, there are plenty of fabulous book bloggers, podcasters in the world that would be happy to recommend books to you that I'm sure I've never even heard of too. Yeah. So we will open you up to all the possibilities.
Yeah, professional recommendations. Let's go. I'll do it.
Well, before we talk about today's sports romance, I do just want you to give everyone a little brief idea of all the podcasts that you have your hand in, because it's a handful, so to speak. Like,
I just went and had a dirty thought based on the romance that I just
yikes
read. Sorry, but yes, I have 2 running podcasts and a new one coming out. And new is sort of a dusty word at this point. But I host Best Forevers, a podcast for kindred spirits. Came out in 2017, so there is quite a backlog for fans of friendship. I talk to friends about how they meet. I talk about friendship in media, and then I talk about the good stuff of friendship, and then we try to work through the bad stuff of friendship, if you will. Then fatalities, yes, it's the idea is that me and a friend come over tea to talk about true crime, and so that has about 50 to 60 episodes. I don't know where my count is, and my goal there is to talk about cases that people don't normally talk about, or it somehow had an impact in my life or my friend's life. And then Unrequited, which you might recall if you remember my first episode on Boobies and Newbies. The pandemic has really put a damper on basically everything in everyone's life, and that has been the case for the podcast, but it will be coming out this spring.
Yay!
And I mean that sooner rather than later. Spring sounds like April. I mean like February.
Perfect. I know it does feel weird saying, like, I do always think of winter as being like November, December, January.
Yes,
February and March are like the weird in between.
Whatever. Yeah. Well, and also I'm teaching in spring semester. So if anyone has worked in academia past being a student, your life is in semesters. So yeah, it's coming out this spring semester. How about that?
Perfect. That's like all of, after January. So.
Exactly. So yeah, we are working on getting that taken care of. And that podcast specifically is just a labor of love that's taken a little bit longer to sort of cook it up, if you will. But it is about the feelings and the experiences of unrequited love, the idea that we love someone and they don't love us back. And that ranges everything from crushes to relationships to even blending over into fatalities territory and thinking about like stalkers or murderers who murder people because it's like, if I can't have you, no one can type situations. In fact, I did a fatalities episode about a number of unrequited true crime cases with the hopes that Unrequited was coming out soon thereafter. I think that episode was in August. So
soon, it just depends on what your definition is for soon.
Time means nothing during a pandemic. So.
No, it's all relative. It is all relative.
It is. But I just enjoy talking about things related to relationships. And then with the true crime podcast, it's a lot of like different types of, I talk about different types of relational concepts that might have played a role, like jealousy or envy or aggression or revenge and or unrequited love, things like that. So I do talk about other things on the True Crime podcast as well.
Well, as we're recording this, I will say that last night I just watched the new release on Netflix, The Tinder Swindler. And
what?
That's right. It is a not a docuseries. It is like a 2-hour documentary about this gentleman who swindled women on Tinder and basically made like millions of dollars of just running this long con game. And it was so interesting. Like, I could not look away.
Can we just give kudos and a round of applause and a tip of the hat to the person who came up with Tinder Swindler?
Yes.
Tinder Swindler. It's
yes.
Genius. And
well, I think it originally came from, so 3 of the women he conned eventually like tried to take him down by like taking the story and all of their text messages and their videos and voice notes and everything to this newspaper in, I think it's Norway. It's either Norway or Sweden. And so the article they published was like this in-depth piece called The Tinder Swindler. And I mean, I'm talking 30, 40, 50 pages long. Like, they had the deets because these women were like, look, if we can't get our money back, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get this guy's face on the internet around the world so that he can never ever do this again. And
Genius.
I'm not gonna spoil anything of like where it goes because it's so fascinating and also infuriating.
Oh, I'll be watching this tonight before jumping back into my Euphoria binge. But
Perfect.
This reminds me of just like how detailed like Dirty John was in a way, even
Yes.
though that was like just, I mean, he had multiple women, but it was like specific to her story. And it's just, I also teach lying and deception classes. So we do a unit on con artists, and it's just like, it's wild.
Yes.
It is wild. So I definitely need to pull one of those cases I talk about in class and do a fatalities episode.
Yes.
The con artist cases are just,
they're so interesting. And I know, we're part of Lady Pod Squad, and we have some good friends who host the My Worst Date podcast that are also part of Lady Pod Squad. And I forget if it's Christine. I think it's Christina. She loves when they do their tainted love story at the end of each episode. She loves con stories. So like they've definitely shared a good amount of like con stories in their podcast, and they're just so fascinating.
And if you're just interested in deception, lying, frauds, etc., we also have friends from Lady Pod Squad, Book of Lies.
Yes,
and
love them.
I was so mad when I saw that because I was like, oh, damn it, that's such a good idea for a podcast.
It's so
I was
good.
like, why did I think of that first?
Yeah, the thing about con, I mean, I'll say con men, but I'm applying that to like anybody who. I
mean, it's
con people, con persons. Yeah. But it's just always about like, what is it that you're getting out of this? Like, because sometimes, most of the times we think it's money, but I feel like there are a lot of times where it's not even a money thing. It's like they have power.
They have other needs that are not fulfilled in their life somewhere. And what's interesting is they can take on a completely different identity or only lie about certain things. So they might only lie about just a few things. And it's to me, it's just, they are next level communicators. So as someone who studies communication and relationships, I'm just like, I mean, do this for good, y'all, instead of evil.
Exactly. The amount of things that they could accomplish if they used their powers for good.
We need them in Congress.
Yes. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Not stealing money from women or whoever. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Well, you know what? In the world of romance, like I love reading a story that has like, I don't want to say a con man, but like sort of like the vigilante thief, but like stealing from the rich, kind of the Robin Hood story.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if I've actually ever read a romance where like the central character is like a legit con man, because it's not somebody that you want to fall in love with. Like I can see where they will talk you into falling in love with them. But
absolutely. And I think like just generally in our society, we don't always condemn con artists because they're so fascinating. And so there's this like, I mean, just think about that movie like, I mean, he was more of like just complete liar. But like, Catch Me If You Can,
which
Leonardo
I
DiCaprio.
love.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And Frank Abagnale, like he lived as himself, but he lied about specific details like his age, his ability to fly. So he would just like go on all he I think flew 1,000,000 miles in pilot outfit, but would never piloted a plane.
God, and then on top of that, goes on to like pretend to be a doctor, a lawyer. I'm like, these are all very high profile, careers.
And it's just one of those things. And now I don't know what he's doing in the last decade, but he has been a consultant to the FBI for people just like him.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like, how do you fault him? He had a bad childhood. How could he do this? Like, how are people so blind to it? And I think it's because we have a truth bias. We believe that people are telling us the truth most of the time. And it's just fascinating. Like, why would they do this? But then you get into like the Fire Festival and you're like, this guy.
I can't with that. That's a whole other podcast.
Wild. The
truth bias concept is really interesting. Is that something that you think in like the modern world of like romantic relationships, we also have a truth bias? Because I just feel like so many, especially women today, are just so weary of like always waiting for like, well, what's wrong with him? Like, when's the other shoe gonna drop?
Yeah, I think like certainly in developing relationships that we are probably more apt to keep an eye out on things. We don't want to be catfish because most of it's like on apps and things like that. But once you're in the relationship, there is a truth bias that you think that you can tell when your partner would be lying to you, or that you believe that your partner wouldn't lie to you at all, versus police who have a lie bias. When they go into an interrogation, they have their person, they just need them to confess, right? So so it's just sort of a different mindset, and I think that we are more weary with the internet, but generally once we're in those relationships, we're gonna think that they're telling us the truth.
That makes sense. That does make sense. And I think we see that in everything from true crime to romance novels. Yeah. I mean, I really do think we see that across the board of our media. So how interesting. Oh, I always love chatting with you about this stuff, Alysa.
You're good. There's so many bonus clips in this episode.
But they really do apply to romantic relationships. And we're here to talk about romance. So
yes, absolutely.
It's a great perspective to have when it comes to like the relationship dynamics in romance novels.
And can we say that does lying and deception relate to the book we'll be talking about today?
Hell
Absolutely.
yes! What a great segue. What a perfectly,
that's what we call a segue.
Perfectly natural segue for me to introduce today's reading, which is Bishop by Sawyer Bennett. And this fake dating, there's your lie, hockey romance was published in August 2018. It's available on Amazon for $4.99 Kindle edition. It is also the first book in Sawyer Bennett's Arizona Vengeance series. And y'all, let me tell you, there are 11 books in this series. And I have already read 2.5, soon to be 3. So I'm in it to win it. I'm not a big, I think there's something intimidating to me about reading a series when like all the books in the series are already out. Like if the books were coming out as I was discovering the series, I'm a lot more inclined to jump in and read it. But if somebody just says, hey, Kelly, I've got this series of, alien hockey players. Wouldn't that be a great mix? Alien hockey players. Great. Awesome. It's 12 books long. Nope. Not going to read it. Sorry. Yeah. It's just where my mind goes. Cause I feel like I'm already behind. I feel like I'm already so far behind that I can't catch up. However, I will say, having read this book, I had to read more. And I know that you had a similar read as well.
Oh, like when it was the end, I was like, wait, what? there's no more pages. There's no more pages. Why are there no more pages? And I need to know everything. And then I downloaded the second book, which I didn't want to start reading until we recorded because I didn't want to like cross-contaminate
Forget who was
my
who and...
ideas. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I was like, well, now I have to read it all. Like, I have to read every single one of them. So kudos to this author. As he said, Sawyer sounds like Sawyer Bennett sounds like a hockey player name.
So I have to tell you, like, as I was making notes and whenever I'm like putting together materials and everything for like this month's reading, I kept thinking this book was called Sawyer. Like, I just kept thinking Sawyer, and then I'd look at, you know, the graphics I'd already put up that say we're reading Bishop, and I'm like, where am I getting Sawyer? Oh, it's the author.
Did that.
You're right, though.
3 times.
Yep. And you know what?
Amazon.
Bennett could also be a hockey player.
Seriously, I think out of the 3, the one that I'm most confused about is Bishop.
Bishop?
Like, who's naming their kid Bishop? No offense to anyone who's listening named Bishop, but it is a unique name.
If somebody listening to this podcast is named Bishop or even knows anybody named Bishop, please let me know, please. So I would love that email or like DM. I will absolutely love it.
I mean, because when you first said we'll be reading Bishop, I'm like, is this a religious romance?
Yeah, he's a bishop. No,
I'm sorry. I was
no.
Then when I saw like the sports, I was like, oh, Kelly knows how to pick them. Mwah, chef's kiss.
I got you on that sports romance, girl. No, and I will say, you know, having read a couple of the books so far, I think one of the things Sawyer Bennett does fantastically is introducing who the potential love interests will be in future books. And because there are a lot of characters. We are talking about an entire, you know, hockey team. And there's, I feel like, a good 4 or 5 of them that are like more emphasized than the rest. But then there's also, and I was very excited to see that he does have a book about halfway through the series. There's also the owner of the team who's like this billionaire
Hot billionaire.
He has a plane that they're always on, this like private jet, but he's also not a dick. I was like, oh my God, I love this. I hope he gets a story. He does. And
but
then there's
it's like, is he not a dick? Is that what we're gonna learn? Like, what are we gonna learn about a billionaire who's not a dick? Like, that
he's probably damaged. He's probably got a past. And no, I love how clear it is in like the setup. Like while reading this book, I'm like, oh, clearly book 2 is going to be about this person and this person. Yep. And she doesn't go, excuse me for assuming Sawyer Bennett's a woman, but Sawyer doesn't go beyond that. Like, there's not too much. We're not learning who every person's partner is going to be for the next 10 books in book 1.
There's also like I mean, because one of the other things, I was like, 11 books. And like, when I downloaded the second book, I did see that the owner also has a story. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Because like, he's not a hockey player. Or was he? Used to be. Like, is it a past tale? Is it a current tale? Like, who knows what's going to happen? But I just think, like, I'm like, with 11 books, I'm like, am I even going to want to buy into the relationship of 11 different guys where the majority of them are on a hockey team? There's got to be douchebags in there. Am I going to want to read that? So I'm also interested in that, is like, how are you going to tell this tale? Because right now, Bishop's my favorite.
Yeah, and I do have a few people that I'm really looking forward to getting their stories. Like, I am really looking forward to, is it Tacker?
Yeah, why is he book 5? I was like,
Sawyer's smart. Sawyer's drawing it out because Tacker is like the moody captain who lost his fiancé in a plane crash that he was flying, and now he doesn't want to talk to anybody. And I'm like, oh my God, his is going to be so angsty, so emotional. And we have to wait 5 books to get to it.
I mean, moody and angsty, it's like Order of the Phoenix when Harry Potter gets super angsty. So maybe that's just sort of how it goes. But I also, just as an aside, I screenshot the page where Bishop and Tacker are roommates when they travel. and he tries to have a conversation with him. So he asks these questions, and Tacker only gives him like one word answers. And I took a picture of it, and I'm going to use it in my interviewing class this semester about how to ask and answer questions and conversations. Because I was like, Tacker, you're terrible.
My gosh.
You're a terrible conversation.
You don't know how happy that makes me that you're going to be using a page out of Bishop in one of your college courses. Like, I am obsessed with this.
I mean, seriously, I was like, oh, this is perfect. And so,
it is.
I took a screenshot. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to use it. So now
Totally
I have to, like, how do I include the cover of the book where it's like, shirtless Bishop? Like, hello.
You just put it all out there. That's what you do.
Does our teacher do when she's not here? Don't
entertain herself. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Well, let me share with everybody before we get too deep into our discussion a quick-ish synopsis for the book. And this is straight from Goodreads.com. This is Bishop. Bishop Scott, co-captain. Not too shabby, huh? It's all part of my fresh start with the NHL's latest expansion team, and that means new teammates, a new coach, a new city, and a big new contract. Basically, I cannot fucking wait to show my old squad what they're missing. But first, I decide to check out the town before the grind begins. Turns out Arizona chicks are totally smokin', and I'm fortunate enough. I don't know why that one made me so... Oh, I thought that was funny. And I'm fortunate enough to meet one who's looking for the same thing I am. A night of anonymous, unforgettable, no strings attached sex. Fast forward to the Vengeance Arena. It's the last place I expect to see her again, let alone in her own office. Then bells go off and I finally realize who this girl is. Brooke Perron, my new coach's daughter. All of a sudden, we're picking up right where we left off, which means our hands are all over each other. That's when her dad, my boss, walks in. And before I can get a word out, Brooke's introducing me as her fiancé. Okay, so basically the synopsis is like a recap of the first 2 chapters of the book.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Yeah. Sure, she just saved my ass. So why do I get the feeling Brooke's going to turn my world upside down? Maybe it's because this fake relationship feels way too real.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. And I will mention, because this book does take place in Arizona, anybody who is playing along with my 2022 50 Romance 50 States reading challenge, you can knock Arizona off your list.
Hey.
I definitely don't think Arizona when I think of hockey too, just because I always associate hockey with being like a winter sport and they must play it in places where it's cold, i.e. Michigan or Canada. So
Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly. So I do like the setup to this book, and I guess by, proxy the series, in that they're in Arizona and basically the NHL has decided they're going to add a new team, and the owner gets to pick a player from every team in the league to put on this team. And so what's cool is like, then you're having a fresh start. You're getting guys who are joining the team. They're like, Bishop and Eric played on the same team together. Wait, is it Eric that he played with?
Dax.
Bishop and Dax played on the same team together. Eric, I think, knows them from, they were both like East Coast teams.
Yeah, around the league.
And a lot of them know of the other people, but like they've never played with them. There are like a few rookies. So I think it's really well set up where there are some relationships that are already in existence, but then everybody else is like meeting each other and like forming new relationships. So I, for one, am excited for the people so far that I've met.
Yeah, and I think that the fresh start is going to be especially important for Tacker, who is in book 5, who's lost his fiancé, and the only thing he has is hockey. And so I think it's great because for him, it's probably a second chance. And I also think that it can bring up some drama. Like, I'll be interested in how other books are set up and as we meet other players, because not everyone will probably be happy about having to go, like, leave the situation they're in,
Yeah.
and be offered up to be, and Bishop, he's like, well, I was offered up because if they get rid of me, then they can get more players because I cost so much. And so it's
Right.
like, oh, he's like showing off a bit, right? So, but other people might be, they're like, no, we don't need them anymore. And they could be problem people. So I think it's interesting in terms of like group dynamics too. Like, this team is all coming together and immediately supposed to be successful. And so
Yeah.
in the sports world, you have to be, right? You have to be successful. And if you don't have a certain thing, then you're not,
You out.
You out.
You
Yeah,
cut.
so yeah, it is an interesting, and I think like the newness allows for relationships, whether romantic or friendship or teammate or with the coach or with the owner. It allows to see where those relationships are going to go. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that this author, Sawyer, also maybe a hockey player, who knows, has really set up well. And like I said, when it finished, I was like, wait, I need to know more.
Yeah. Well, and I do remember reading, I forget if it was at the very beginning or the very end of the book, but there was some author's note where Sawyer did thank a specific NHL player who I guess collaborated on, verifying like what things were real in the world of hockey, like sort of the dramaturg of hockey. And I think I will say, I usually, when I'm reading a hockey romance, I feel like there's usually not like a ton of the actual hockey in it. And I think there was a good amount of hockey in this, and it all felt really understandable, especially for somebody like me who knows next to nothing about hockey. Like, I felt like I could actually follow along with it without there being like too much jargon.
Yeah, and there was a particular chapter where Bishop, it talks about like his pregame, like everything he does leading up to the game. And so as someone who has watched hockey, I don't watch it as often. College basketball and soccer are my favorite sports. So, and volleyball. But I don't watch hockey that often, but it reminded me of, like, I was like, okay, yeah, this is hockey. Like, I wasn't like, that doesn't seem real or whatever. Like, it did seem, and like the guys on the team and the things that they were doing, it seemed pretty accurate. So that's good, right? Like, we don't want someone going in there and just talking about hockey.
No,
not in a correct way.
Well, and like you said, it went a lot beyond the game. Like, there was a lot of talk about like, well, here's what an average day looks like, leading up to the game. Like, we have to go to practice, and then I have like somebody rub me down and use like, an electric stim gun, And then I love that they talk so much about, there's a time where he's like, oh, do you want to go explore San Francisco together? And she's like, no, this is your nap time. Like, this is when you're supposed to nap and everything. And he's willing to give up his afternoon pre-game nap to like hang out with her. Like, hello, love.
But also, like, every time it was like game time, she's like, but it's your game time. You need to, like, she was very respectful of his profession. Yes. Even though sometimes it doesn't feel like this is their job. It is, like,
for sure.
This is their job. This is their livelihood. This is what they get paid for. That would be me being like, I'll give up my grading.
I just won't
go out. And it's like, oh, you're just gonna grade another time. But he can't take a nap another time. That's like, that was funny. I was like, oh, do professional athletes nap before they're that one? I had
apparently. Yeah, and I could like wrap up most of the things that I loved in this book in like a few like key points. Like, first thing I will say, it's quick and dirty. And the reason I say that is I'm on the third book at this point. All of them are less than 300 pages. Yep. They are, in fact, I think most of them are less than 250 pages. They are on the shorter side. It is a quicker read. When I say dirty, I mean that we get to it pretty quickly. Like, I don't think it is the steamiest, nastiest sex that you're ever going to read in romance. I In fact, I could have done with a little bit more personally, but I will say, I think in all 3 books I've read so far in the series, they bang before page 50. Like, a lot of them it's happening
they bang
very
in
early
chapter
on.
1.
In chapter 1 in this book.
Can I just say that, like, now, I don't necessarily would call myself a prude, but I also don't read romance novels so as often, as we've made very clear. But on page 1, he's at the bar with Dax. He said he sees her, and the first line is, "I see her and it's all over for me." And then the couple lines down, it says, "Shouldering my way through the crowd filled with 20-something yuppies, here to take advantage of the last few minutes of happy hour. I keep my eyes locked on her. How could I not when those full, wet lips wrap around a straw sticking out of her fruity-looking cocktail, prompting wild images of those same lips wrapping around my cock." And I was like, Kelly, it's page 1.
Hey, I didn't write it.
I was literally like, and I probably said this in the last episode, but I literally was like, clutch my pearls.
Clutch them, bro. Let me tell you, Sawyer Bennett has a thing for like mouth action, I feel like, in this book, because this isn't my sexcerpt that I want to share, but I do just want to share like a highlight. And this is page 33, so not too much further, but it was just the wording of it that just hit me in a weird way. I don't want to say necessarily a positive way. It was just, I just didn't know what to do with it. It's the start of like not a new chapter, but a new section of the chapter from Bishop's point of view that starts with, "My mouth opens wide to come down on Brooke's pussy." And I was just like, my mouth opens wide. Like, how wide your mouth going, bro? Like, it sounded like he was trying to like swallow her vagina whole. And I don't know. It was a wording that I was not anticipating. And I'm still trying to digest.
And, I have to say that, like, once you mention that, like, I can think of at least maybe 3 of the racy scenes that did focus on the mouth and also the butt.
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. I will say I do have one disappointment from this book. Overall, really liked it. Really enjoyed this book. I'm a huge fan of reading butt stuff in my romance. I do. I love it. I look forward to it. So when very early into a book, this couple is already talking about like how he wants to like fuck her in the butt, but like we're going to work up to it because she's never had anal sex. So like there's a little bit of finger action the first night that they have sex. I'm like, great. Then there's like talk about like, well, here's what we're going to do next. We don't actually get to see anything. Like, I was like,
if you're going to get us excited about it, at least follow through.
Yeah, stop playing with my heart. Like, in fact, at one point, there's one chapter where apparently they have sex and he uses a butt plug on her, but we don't get to see it. Like,
she's just really tired.
Yeah, she's really tired. She's like starfished on the bed, naked, sweaty, and he says, "You looked beautiful, Brooke, all tied up, butt plug in your ass, my cock in your pussy." And I'm like, did I miss a chapter? Did I skip a page? What happened? And then we never go beyond that. So besides a little bit of finger action, I was disappointed.
I was like, where is this gonna go? But I love that because it did seem like there was like a big build up to that, but then there wasn't actually the scene, if you will, for us to be a part of it. It was just like after the fact, and I was like, okay.
And there's some great aftercare. There's some great, okay, nope, I lied. I have another complaint. I'm sorry. And this is something I've talked about a lot on the podcast before is just sort of like the lack of realness when it comes to like UTIs in romance novels. This is not me saying I want every heroine to get a UTI. Like, that is not what I'm looking for. If it happens, I'm okay with it. But my thing is that there is such a big deal made about every time they finish having sex, he gets up and says, "I'm going to go clean up. I'm going to go clean up. I got to take care of cleaning up. Like multiple times. I'm not talking about once. Like this happens every time they have sex.
Every time.
He takes the time, tell her he's going to clean up. He goes to the bathroom. He takes off the condom. He washes up. She just fucking lies there. I'm like, girlfriend.
He's tired.
I don't care how starfished you are on that bed. You need to get up to pee. Like, and if you're not going to mention it, like if you're not going to mention it in a romance novel, fine. But don't specifically mention that he's going to clean up and she ain't doing shit.
Yeah, I mean, they talk a lot about, like, him liking the house clean, too, and he cleans up. So maybe he's just a particularly clean person. But also, like, the fact that she doesn't. Maybe she is not a puck bunny. She is a puck sloth. Who doesn't take the time.
She gonna be a puck sloth with a UTI. That's what's gonna happen, Alysa.
She's gonna need to get some cranberry juice stat.
I hope sloths like cranberries. No, it's again, these are such petty notes, but I will say it's the idea of like the premise to promise. Like if you're going to promise me something, deliver. If you're going to set it up, give it to me. Yes, exactly.
You better give it to me. And I think like as someone who doesn't read romance as often, I always get like concerned, like, am I not going to, it's not that I don't understand romance and that sort of thing. Like, I mean, I study relationships. I have read some romance books before, but I'm always like, is it just going to be the same thing? Right. Like, so I would say the fake relationship leading into a real relationship. I was like, this is going to happen, like Bishop and Brooke Perron together. But I do have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by the introduction of her, and I'm using air quotes, her friend, Nanette from New York, adding in a whole nother layer of drama. I was really pleased because romance is usually only romantic, right? I love the interactions with him and the other players on the team, like the guy stuff. I liked Nanette coming in, although she was
bonkers, like just straight up banana sandwich. Like
she was like, so this is definitely like, you know, I love the friendship aspect of things. And certainly I think with him and the guys, you can see like sort of the positive aspects of friendship, even though some of the stuff you're kind of like, okay, bros, like let's bro it down. I
do think it's relatively low on the bro meter though. Yes. I will say like as far as like a sports romance goes, like with, you know, if you're expecting like a lot of like locker room talk and like I'm a fuck that pussy kind of thing, like I think you get a little bit of it, but it's very light. There was never at any point where I'm like, oh god, these guys are so disrespectful. Like I worry about.
That's why I was like, once I saw that the books were all named after people, I was like, oh, what if I don't like a dude and I can't make it through his book? Well, it's only 200 pages, Alysa. Figure it out. But Nanette brings in a whole lot of drama, so she is definitely like the dark side of friendship, and it also says, it makes me wonder like why Brooke would even give Nanette any attention or let her stay with her, but she allows this a woman, you know, someone that she says that she's kind of friends with, to come stay with her, and this person is a hot mess express, like has way too many it's not even issues, like it's just
bad intentions.
That's the thing. It's not like she's someone who doesn't know what she's doing. She knows precisely what she's doing. Yeah,
she's for sure a villain.
The problem. That's the problem is she is there to do damage. And so I thought that was really cool because I don't think you get a lot of friendship type stuff in these stories, but I was like,
you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised, especially in like recent years. I will say the devious ex or like the conniving ex or like shunned woman is like definitely a recurring character in a lot of romances, unfortunately. Like not for me. I do think there's a little bit of a difference here because she is she is a friend-ish
Ish.
of Brooke. And so I liked that storyline in that it added, another layer, but I will say overall, like, personally, I could have done without it, but without it, I will say I don't know what the
outcome would
have
been.
Yeah, I feel like if it wasn't there would have been something missing, but I almost wish that they had actually been friends, that it had actually been like a friendship that we see like ending, because that's what I feel like we don't see enough of in romance. And I did read one recently that was a actually it was a college romance. I don't think it was hockey though. I think it was football. But it was where the heroine is living in a dorm room and basically has like this friendship fall apart with like somebody she went to college with from high school. And I feel like we don't see that enough. Like usually the mean girls are mean girls to start with. It's not like we see them becoming that way. So I don't know. I kind of would have maybe liked a little more depth to Nanette.
Well, now that we're talking about it, I think what could have been really interesting is that Nanette sort of just shows up, right? And so, but what would have been interesting there is, Brooke then has to tell her about the deception. And so at this point, I think only Dax and then Brooke and Bishop know.
Yeah.
Right? And so then she has to bring Nanette into the deception. And what would have been interesting is if they were friends and she disagreed with the fact that they were lying about their relationship, and that sort of put a wedge in their friendship. And so like I come from very limited access, so when I'm like, there's a friend that's here to do damage, right? She's here to burn it to the ground. But I think you're right, like adding some layers to it, like that disagreement, because everyone seems to be cool the fact that they're lying about it. And
everybody who did find out about the fake relationship was fine. They're like, oh, okay. Like his mom gives him her wedding ring to give to Brooke as part of the ruse. I'm just like, why is everybody okay with this? Like, granted,
I does call him a moron, though, at least.
Yeah, I know. His relationship with his mom, by the way, was fantastic. This is what I liked most about this book, were the different relationships. Like, Nanette, she sucks. I mean, I could take her or leave her. But I think it's a relatively low angst romance, and I think this is a discussion we're having a lot now, is like, does a romance have to have that third act breakup moment? Does there have to be that like dark moment between the couple? And I think this is a great example of a book where, yes, there is still like that dramatic moment, but it's not like that's it, end all be all, we can never be together again, only to 30 pages later get together. It's very realistic of just how we kind of are our own worst enemies when it comes to relationships, of like, I need to retreat because I feel like what I'm doing is like affecting you in a negative way, as opposed to just like blaming somebody else and pushing all your problems on them. So, and having read the next book in the series in its entirety, I can say that seems to be a constant so far in the series. So I think if you're like me and you're kind of done with the breakup moment in romance novels, it's a nice compromise for it.
Yeah, I think that you have the fake relationship, so I was waiting for like the can't buy me love public breakup. I was thinking of the Patrick Dempsey movie.
Yes.
From the 80s,
oh no, I know exactly what movie you're talking about.
Yeah, I was like, I was waiting for like a public breakup like that, and I'm like, that would have just been part of like the story, because you know that they're gonna end up being real, because they felt like a good connection from the beginning, right?
Yeah,
and that's okay. Yeah, I really do enjoy the fact that there wasn't the breakup in there, in the sense that if she would have blamed like Bishop or for everything that had happened after the fake relationship was created, I would have been like, no, don't like this, because he didn't want to be a part of it from the beginning. I liked that there wasn't the breakup.
I
There
agree.
was like a pause where like they were in different states at different
I will take that.
times.
I will take a pause. Give me
Yeah.
a pause as
Yeah.
opposed to a breakup. Like, it is
Yes.
okay not to sound like two Ross and Rachel, in like, but it's like, yeah, it's just like, it's okay to take, and I don't mean like take a break, like we can see other people, but like, it's okay to just like take a breath, like take a pause, step back for a moment, think about yourself and what you're bringing to the table. And like, because if you're not focusing on like what's going on with you, you're definitely not going to be able to like contribute to like a good positive relationship with somebody else. So I thought that was fine. Like I didn't have a problem with that. And I think, as much as we're like joking about how everybody was okay with the fact that they were having this fake relationship when they find out, I will say I do think everyone's reactions for the most part are pretty realistic in terms of like when she finally tells her dad like, oh, we were having a fake relationship because they're exposed in like a tabloid by, you guessed it, Nanette. He's like, yeah, of course I knew. I knew that you were faking
that was
this.
funny.
Like, of course. Like, and so I thought that was great. And then I like, she's like a good relationship with her ex-boss. And then she's interviewing for this new job, and you're not sure who to believe when it comes to Nanette, because she's always talking about how every man is like hitting on her or wants to have sex with her. And really we find out that the job that Brooke is applying for, the guy is not a bad guy at all. Like, but he even goes the extra mile to be like, hey, I know you feel uncomfortable a certain way because I was attracted to you, so I'm going to have you work with like a female supervisor as opposed to working with me. I was like, oh my God, we're taking out all the toxicity. I love this.
I have to say, sometimes, like, I guess thinking back to my reading experience, that I would think something was going to happen and it didn't. And now that we're reflecting on the book, I'm like, I was expecting something shitty to happen. Like, I was expecting, like, I don't know, like, I'm just expecting all these things to, for this person to be an asshole and this person to do this. And, like, that didn't happen. Like, I was like, wait a minute.
Their billionaire boss owner of the team is like secretly a romantic at heart that will like lend his private jet to his player to like fly to New York and like see his girlfriend. I'm like, oh my God, he's not a dick? What? He's okay?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, Bishop's a good player. Like, he scores, he assists, he's a leader on the team. They need him. So yeah, if it's gonna take him flying to New York to get not only him back but the coach's daughter back, then the team is gonna stick together. But yeah, I don't know why I was expecting like the worst out of everybody.
Well, and I think, but it's funny that you say that, because I mean, here you are more of a romance newbie, and I've been reading romance for over a decade, and that's my expectation too, because we've been so conditioned to it, not only in romance, but just in the world of like romantic comedies, in other forms of media. And we're just so used to there being so much drama that we're putting into situations. I mean, if anybody wants a bonus clip of Alysa and I discussing and just like that, the Sex and the City reboot, you can visit our Patreon. But I will say that was one of the things we talked about, was just sort of like why writers are coming up with like contrived drama as opposed to just playing out like the inherent situation of like what's already happening. You don't have to add comedy. You don't have to add drama to a situation. Like it's already there. Just let it play out. And I think that's something that Sawyer Bennett does a really good job of.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, was it, I think it was Frozen. It reminds me of like a similar reaction where like in that movie, I was just expecting like she needs the kiss of love or whatever. So I'm yelling at the guy to get down to her, and then it was like, oh wait, sisterly love works too.
Yeah.
Like, oh damn.
But like, isn't it funny that that's not like the go-to? It's like, no, love. Yeah. Like true love. Of course, it's got to be the romantic relationship.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing about it is like, I would love there to be more stories about sisterly love and friend love and like, you know, healthy romantic love and that sort of thing. And I think even Disney sort of played us all like by having all these stories where the prince does something. So, or like the guy does something. So I was like sitting in the theater with my mom, like, oh snap. Thought we knew. We thought.
Yeah. Side note, if you want two movies that are fantastic examples of like a female friendship love story, basically just the evolution of like their friendship and like them falling in love with each other as friends.
Yes.
The two that I recommend to people are Booksmart, which is like a more relatively recent movie. So well
good.
Done. So well done. So good. And then the other one is like super underrated, but it's called For a Good Time Call. And
I haven't heard of that.
It's great. It's about like college enemies basically having to like reconnect and live as roommates in New York because one needs a place and one needs a roommate, and they end up starting a phone sex hotline together.
Oh my God.
And it's so good. The friendship story in it is great. And but I'm with you in that I feel like a few years ago, we were asking for a lot more of like female friendship stories in romance. And yes, I do want more. I'll say now that I actually really am looking for a lot more of like male friendships in romances, especially ones where their conversations are not just about romance. Like I want their conversations to be like healthy, toxic. We hang out and like, did I say toxic? I meant not toxic.
You said healthy, toxic.
Healthy, toxic relationship.
Quite a paradox.
No, I want healthy, non-toxic friendships of like, you know, they can be athletes and still go and get pedicures together.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, I love friendship. I always have. I have a special place in my heart for friendships among guys, dudes, men, boys, whatever the case is. Like, we do not give them enough time, space, or approval, if you will. Like, it's, you know, it's any time that men are showing some sort of affection for each other, it's like called a bromance. So we have to have all this stupid stuff. And it's like, why can't we just be excited about them being like, men need more friends. They have less friends than women do. And basically what ends up happening, especially in heterosexual relationships, is that the men rely solely on their wives for support, for talking, all that kind of stuff. Whereas their wife probably has siblings, parents, friends, co-workers, the person standing in line behind them at the grocery store, like whatever it is, right? And maybe that's one of the reasons why I I'm excited about this series, is because they're all on the same team. So there is going to be a connection between them in some way.
Yeah.
In this one, I appreciate the long-standing friendship that Dax and Bishop have, and I especially enjoy that Dax is also connected to Bishop's mom. I really like that Bishop tries to understand, is it Tacker? What was his name? Tacker. I don't know what I'm thinking. Tacker, like someone who's been through something horrific and he doesn't want to say the wrong thing. He wants to be respectful.
Yeah.
But he also wants to get to know him. I appreciate all of that. And so I'm excited to see how those, but at the same time, you also have like the razzing each other, the talking shit, like that's how a lot of people bond, is like, I remember doing this activity in my dark side of interpersonal communication class where I talked about, tell me how you and your siblings show affection. And it's just like sending text message, what up, loser?
Yeah.
Hey, shit bag. You know? And I just was like, this is great. Like, yeah, affection is going to look different and I am here for it. So I'll step off my soapbox, but give me more men's friendship.
Yes.
Let it be healthy and let it be okay for men to have friends. Like, just
not
please,
toxic.
Please. Not toxic.
Yeah, and I will say I do like that they hook up very early on, because it's just a different way to get into the relationship. And I feel like it's also very modern, like in terms of dating. Like so many people have, you know, hookups or casual sex before they ever explore what their like romantic relationship is, if they do at all. So I mean, I think it's definitely a different way to get into it where, you know, I thought he would have been more of a player, like if that hadn't been, and I think he was very much invested in more of a sexual relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you have somebody say you're engaged and you roll with it, you don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like why I was still like, he went along with this. But I also think that with her, you know, I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, I mean, when it started, it's from like his point of view. And then I do like that it shifts to hers too, so that we can see like both sides of what they're thinking internally, like their internal dialogue about the relationship and sort of what they're going through. And I really liked Brooke. I thought and I liked how he saw her, if that makes sense, like how he described her. And just, he would say things like, oh, she's talking about this merchandising job. I haven't seen her look this excited about her work. And so like, I don't know. I just thought it was really cool having the different angles, and that, you know, he seemed like they seemed good together. And I was like,
they talk. They have so much communication. Like they talk about, are we in a real relationship now? Yeah, we are. They talk about her saying, you know, I love that I have so much agency and like I want to do things on my own, but also I want you to tell me what to do in the bedroom. Like I like giving over control to you. Like it's I love that they have so many honest open communication with each other.
Well, and talking about the loss of her mother and what that was like for her, and being strong for her father, and then he lost his dad when he was younger, and that his mom, like, I mean, not to bring it up again to like be repetitive, but his relationship with his mom was
so
pretty
endearing.
Cool. Like it felt like they were friends,
which I like.
You know what I mean? Like that
I'm like, good. In fact, and I will say, parent relationships carry on into the second book. We do get to meet another character's parent or parents in that book. So family seems to be a part of these books in this series as well. At least what I've read so far, there is just as much an emphasis on family and friendship as there is romance, which I love. Yeah, I love. So it's clear that we've got a lot more reading to do, but first things first, do you have a specific sexcerpt or sex scene that you wanted to discuss?
Well, I mean, I definitely wanted to discuss page 1 because I was like, I'm sorry.
We got it.
Like, like page 1, I was like, that's where I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like Bishop, but it's like, if he's looking for a one night stand, I guess.
Start off with a bang. It gives it a whole new meaning.
And I have to say, I don't have an exact quote, but one of the scenes that I liked the best was the one when they're in the hotel room and he gives her a massage and then she falls asleep.
To sleep. Oh my God. No, I loved that. That was like, to me, what a great example of, and again, I mention this on the show all the time, is I have found that I am not a romantic person. I am not into grand gestures of any means. Yeah. I'm into the smaller, personalized gestures that make sense for the couple. So when he says, how about a massage? She all of a sudden assumes he wants her to give him a massage. And he's like, no, like you just said that you're tired and you can't fall asleep. Like I'll massage you. He does it, and she falls asleep naked on this bed. I'm just like,
and then
love it.
And she's laying. It's in the hotel room, and she's laying the wrong way on the bed, right? Like so horizontally. Sorry, I had to really second grade think about that. Wow, that was a moment.
I got you.
And then he just grabbed the blankets from the other bed
to cover
and laid
them
horizontally. Up. Yeah, so he didn't try to move her or anything. I just thought, yeah, I guess for me, like, some of the stuff, I mean, obviously, because I don't read romance, that every scene is, like, sort of hot, because it's like, what? Okay, this is not what I usually read. But I was sort of, like, flabbergasted on page 1, which is just because I was like, I don't think I was ready for it in paragraph 3, but it's okay. So if you don't like waiting around, you don't have to.
No.
But I also like sort of those, like you said, those small moments or small gestures. And I also don't like when they are going to focus only on one partner, like only them giving to the woman or she only giving to him, like that it's about both people being satisfied. Like that to me is like, maybe it's a silly pipe dream.
I love it.
But I appreciate that, right? And that, again, something that you might expect is like, yeah, even she expects that he's asking for her massage.
Yeah, exactly. I will say I do like a romance novel that can make me appreciate a blowjob scene. And I think because I think again, it kind of ties in with what you're saying is like there's just like this inherent idea that like blowjobs especially are like I have to do this to like get to the next thing sort of thing. That's not how it should be. Like a good blowjob should be enjoyable for everyone involved. But there is a scene where I forget if it's like I think it's the first time because they have sex. He goes down on her. They do a lot of things before she goes down on him for the first time.
The blowjob comes way later than I would have anticipated. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the hand job comes after that, I think. And he even says like that was better than the blowjob. So.
But I thought there was some great dirty talk in the scene where she's going to blow him. Let me give you like a little taste. Again, he's talking about her butt, which we never get to see, but he says, "Your ass is all mine, Brooke, and I'm going to enjoy the process working you up to taking my cock. You got that?" I managed to nod, feeling my panties getting more wet. The thought of him doing that to me, controlling me in a way I've never let happen before. I love that I've never let happen before. Yeah. Both terrifies and exhilarates me. But right now, he continues, his fingers gripping my hair even tighter. I'm going to take something else from you. I swear I can feel my pulse hammering away in my clit, and the need for me to touch myself is almost unbearable. I let out a shaky sigh. What's that? Going to take that beautiful fucking mouth, he says. I'm going to take it and fuck it. I've been dying to watch those lips spread wide and hug my cock. Want to see how tight your throat is? Watch it move as you swallow me. A lot of wide lips. I understand.
Yes, the mouth.
At least with her, I understand why the mouth is open wide. Him, I'm confused. I'm very confused with like.
What are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, it makes me think of that. It's going to sound so weird, but it makes me think of that moment in Mary Poppins where she's like, we're not a codfish, Michael. Close your mouth. Like, but I never did think I'd be comparing an oral sex scene to Mary Poppins. So there's,
you never know what's going to happen.
You never know. So any other thoughts before we give our ratings for this book?
You know what I thought was going to happen? So there's the lead up scene where he gets rid of Nanette, basically, by giving an Uber driver 4 tickets to see the
He's like,
game,
take her ass to the airport.
Which I was like, dude, you are going to get, like, I felt like for a moment when he was like, do you know who I am? I was like, this guy is going to post about it and it's going to break up Brooke and Bishop because she's gonna think Nanette and him are together.
Cheating.
Yes, but that scene beforehand, everything that Nanette does to get him to
she tries to seduce him, in like a really nasty way.
A nasty, aggressive way. And I was like, what is going to happen here? And I was like afraid that this was when you know that Nanette is bad business.
Yeah.
That she's at fault. Like I was afraid she was going to ruin it between the two of them.
It very easily could have been a scene where it's like she set it up so that Brooke would walk in the moment that she was naked there and think something. But I liked that didn't necessarily fit their relationship dynamic. Like they already knew she was toxic as hell. They knew she was a problem. And, Brooke says like, I don't like that she's hitting on you. Like, I know you wouldn't do anything, but I do not like that. And so.
And that he says something, because a lot of times I feel like in relationships, things will happen and people feel like they can't talk about it. But like him talking about it and Brooke talking about it set it up so that if Nanette tried to do anything, Brooke or Bishop wouldn't believe her.
Right.
And I think it should be about them and not,
exactly,
like giving her the benefit of the doubt in this case.
Walking in on somebody and like seeing them with somebody else and automatically assuming they're cheating. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like every episode of Three's Company.
Exactly.
Where someone overhears
We're dating ourselves with that reference, by the way.
Yes, fine. If you don't know, you just need to watch one episode.
And you'll understand the entire series.
There's always a misunderstanding from people eavesdropping or overhearing, and it just sets there would be no issues in their life if they didn't assume based on eavesdropping.
Well, taking into account everything we've talked about, let's give this book a few grades. We're both teachers, so that's easy.
Easiest grading I'll do this weekend.
Good. There you go. So we are going to be grading for heart, humor, and heat on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the very best that it could possibly be, at least in your opinion. So let's start with heart. What do you think?
I will assume heart means a more romance, right?
Heart can mean whatever you want to mean. However, for me, I take into consideration friendship, family, the different types of relationships that are there, not just the romantic relationship, but like the heart that exists within the different relationships in the book.
I would say then I'd probably give it an 8 in heart. Maybe a little bit more with friendships, because after our discussion, Annette, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. I do like what they develop in terms of heart.
I'm with you. I might even bump it up to like an 8.5 or a 9 because is it an insta-love story? No. Is there like a wedding at the end and a baby? Thank God. No, because also don't need it. But I do think it's a very realistic look at the progression of a romantic relationship in 2022. It feels very real. And then to add in Brooke's relationship with her dad, and we've got Bishop's relationship with his mom. We've got the teammates. Like, I just feel like there's so many great relationships being built in the first book that I have like really high expectations for
the rest of them,
the rest of the series. So I think I'm gonna go with a 9, and then I'm excited for more. So humor, what do you think?
I laughed a bit. Like I thought they were fun together, so I might give humor maybe an 8 as well.
Okay, that's fair. I'm definitely not gonna go as high.
I thought they were fun together.
I thought they were too. And there are definitely like fun one-liners. I don't think it's like there are no moments that feel like contrived comedy by any means, like that Sawyer Bennett's like trying too hard or anything. I would probably give it between a 6 and a 7 just because it's not like a rom-com laugh out loud.
And maybe I find like the humor of it funnier because I don't get that in my apocalyptic YA. Or
I think the word I would use would be like
thrillers.
Mystery thriller, YA, apocalypse. I think for me, the word would be like charming. Like I found it like it's charming. It's sweet.
Bishop is charming and she's a delight. So
and I do love seeing especially Eric just like striking out with woman after woman. I think it's so funny.
That like, sweet baby angel.
Sweet baby angel. Book two, get ready.
I'm excited.
How about the heat? How much pro-clutching for you?
For me, like on page 1, it was a 10. I just think page 1, I was like, Oh, I wasn't ready for it. But
Set the bar.
I think I'll probably have this higher than you will, because the last book I read before this was a Nancy Drew case file from when I was like in my tweenhood. So I'm probably going to give Heat like a 9, because I'm not used to any sort of heat, I guess, in the books
Fair enough.
the books I read. So, but I'd be interested to know how you rate it as the booby, and I'm the newbie.
The booby in this relationship. Yeah, no, I will say it's not as high for me. I do think it's on the higher end, especially because they're constantly having sex.
Yeah.
Like, it's happening throughout the book.
Yeah.
There is no shortage of sex scenes.
Except when she falls asleep and he gets back late from a game. That's like the only time that they weren't doing it.
But if they are awake and in the same room,
and there
they're
are
doing
other
it.
people are not around. Then...
Yeah. But I did not get my butt stuff as I thought. And here's the thing. It doesn't mean that every romance has to have butt stuff. I'm just saying, when you're setting it up, you gotta deliver. Like, you gotta deliver.
If you're going to do the butt stuff, do the butt stuff.
Do it. So that's automatically a point off there. But no, I think I'd probably give it an 8. I think I'd give it an 8. Just especially because there's, for a 210 page book, like, the frequency, there's a lot of dirty talk. You know, everybody's satisfying everyone in different ways. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I am so thrilled to have found a series to dive into where I actually want to read all the books, as opposed to like feeling like I'm behind and I'm never going to catch up. Like, I am excited.
I think that Sawyer Bennett's Arizona Vengeance series is going to get me a lot closer to my book goal.
Yes. Well, I mean,
2022.
And hopefully by the time you finish it, you know, you're 5 for 5 right now. Hopefully you'll be like 16 for 16 by the time you're done with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I only like 3 authors: Elle Kennedy, Olivia Dade, and Sawyer Bennett.
I mean, that's not a bad collection of authors to have.
Sounds good to me. They've been great for me.
I love it. Well, one of these days we will get you a romance outside of sports, or not. I mean, honestly, maybe we'll just diversify the sports.
Yes,
lineup.
I want to know about like what I want to read. Yeah, people recommend, those listening, recommend your favorite sports that is not hockey, and then I will read those and then tweet about them.
Yeah, she's got hockey and tennis so far, and that's it. We've got so many other sports to hit up, and here we are. Winter Olympics are upon us. I'm just saying, where is the curling romance? Where is the curling? Where is it?
You know, Love and Basketball is a really great movie, and so like, I could do basketball. I could do it. I like sport. The only one that I'm gonna have to say no to is golf. I'm sorry, it's not happening.
And honestly, couldn't think of one for you. And I
can't imagine. I can't imagine the hot sex level on a golf book.
I think there's a reason that people aren't out here writing golf romance, and I think we all know what that reason is.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Oh gosh. Well, until next time, Alysa, this has been delightful as always, and you are always welcome back.
Aw, thanks for having me, and thanks for getting me to read great romance books. It's been a lot of fun to read and chat about them.
My pleasure, as always. Thanks so much for listening. Boobies and Newbies is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow Boobies and Newbies on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Boobies Podcast.